So day 2 of the shred. This one was a little bit more. It was the beginning of the Jacob and Joseph and his brother narratives, all the way through Exodus, almost to the Mount Sinai split between the two Ten Commandment passages. But we also had my niece stay here yesterday. We watched a movie about a chimpanzee that joined a hockey team. That was actually pretty entertaining. But I didn't have the time to do, I kind of did the dual, like read in the morning for about 15, 20 chapters and listen for a while and finish up the reading at the end of the night. And I literally finished up the reading like right before I went to bed, but that was more so because my time yesterday. I kind of worked a full day, which I did not anticipate doing. But that was there. But the thing that jumps out, I'm gonna try to not like cheat too much on this because I actually finished the story today. I've already read about 15 chapters of, this is day 3's reading. But what I'm struck by is how Moses struggled with doubt. And a lot of times I feel like we think that people in the Bible are like these monuments of faith. And we do see this tremendous amount of faithfulness on Moses's behalf and in his life, that sort of thing, obviously. But we also see him, he's like telling God constantly, I don't feel like I can do this. I don't feel like I can do this. And I think the lesson that's there is really this. There is complete like okayness, even if, I don't know if okayness is actually a word. But what I'm seeing is with Moses is this transition between these monuments of faith, which Moses was. I mean, he was huge. I mean, he was one of the people that Jesus met with at the Transfiguration. But you see the honesty of what his faith looked like, and that story is going to jump out more in tomorrow's reading. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more there, about what I believe was an absolute breakdown Moses had. The second thing that's interesting, and this is where the shred, I'm hoping these birds, I went outside today because everybody's still asleep in the house. Where the shred comes in is you see these points of connection. And what I noticed was when God was giving the priests the law, and one of those, the thing was about them not walking upstairs for their altar. And it said it's because they're going to expose their nakedness. And what that drew me back to was Noah after the flood, when he got a little bit too much into his homemade wine, and he exposed his nakedness, and you see his sons do this whole 9 yards. But then also the theme of nakedness that's in Genesis chapter 3. And what that makes my head think right now is that there is something, I think that anytime you're dealing with anything in Genesis, especially like Noah and back, these stories, I don't want to say not true because I think they are true, but I think we also have to realize that they are anthropologically situated. I think creation narratives, I think the reason you see creation narratives and flood narratives in so many cultures is because everyone is trying to remember back to certain things and to explain these things in light of how they see how the world works and how humans work. So I'm not gonna say that's not true. I just know that it's an anthropologically loaded idea. But what makes me think about is this idea of exposure, this idea of how nakedness was tied to an awareness of things that happened in Genesis, but also how at the end that Adam and Eve were barred from the garden because of their sin. There was a protection that was placed on them, because we think about there's one fancy tree in Eden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There's also the tree of life, and how we have this thing kind of stopping them from that. And so it makes me think a lot about just this metaphor of nakedness as a truthfulness, as exposure, as vulnerability, all that sort of thing. So that's kind of the two places that my mind really sat all day long as I was reading through that part of Exodus. And so today I'm finishing up Exodus and I'm reading the entire book of Leviticus. That should be interesting. But so far, this is a fun exercise. Thanks for coming in, hang out in the comments, ask questions. What I would really like to do is do a Q&A stuff with the questions in these videos, if that works out. So I will see you back tomorrow.